Some political news. A new poll found that President-elect Trump's approval rating is at 54%. That's why he needs a good education secretary, because Trump asked what the other 54% said.
That's as good as it gets on late night TV these days. That's it. And the SEALs, they got a guy up there whipping them up, waving their hand in the air. Hey, clap, that's a real good one. Let's pretend that's funny. How about Peach? Is it Peach and Blossom? Is that what it is? They got Peach and Blossom. Two turkeys at the White House, but they have pseudonyms, too. They're being pardoned today. But if you look a little deeper on their birth certificates, their full names are Hunter Biden and Joseph Robinette Biden. And they'll be pardoned today. I find that to be a little bit peculiar. Happy Monday, Thanksgiving week to all of you. Hope you can have a great American week. America's back on track. We're headed in the right direction. And that's a positive thing. And even the polls and the pollsters are in a panic because the American people are not thinking the way that the American news media is thinking. And I want to get into those poll numbers in just a second because it's a big deal. But first, I want to talk about Russia and Yemen. And I think Joe Biden comes into play somewhere here, too. The headline in the New York Post is Russia sends Yemeni mercenaries to fight in Ukraine after they were tricked into signing up for war by Iran-backed Houthis. Isn't that amazing? Russia has sent hundreds of Yemeni mercenaries, I'm not sure I'd call them mercenaries, to fight in Ukraine after a company with ties to the Iran-backed Houthi terror group tricked them into traveling to Moscow, where they were forced to sign up for the Russian military, according to a report. Several of the recruits claimed that they were approached in back in July, by the Al-Jabri Company. The Al-Jabri Company, founded by prominent Houthi politician Abdul Wali Abdul Hassan Al-Jaban. And he promised them that they would secure a new life in Russia. You'd have a new life in Russia. The Financial Times initially broke the story. Instead, the men were reportedly coerced to sign an enlistment contract, sure that they could not read, and then they were shipped off to the front lines as part of a growing relationship between the Kremlin and the Houthi rebels. You know, the Russians and the Soviets have done this for a long, long time. Bring in foreigners from anywhere around the world and just throw them into the mulcher, throw them into the wood chipper, where they all get killed invariably, but they don't care because they're commies. One recruit, identified only as Nabil, told the Financial Times that he was just one of some 200 Yemenis forcibly conscripted into the Russian army in September, noting that many of them had no military training at all. You know, they did that with their own troops in World War II and threw them into the German socialist worker killing machine. That's one of the reasons they lost 25 million men in World War II. Well, 25 million people. Nabil said that he joined Al-Jabri, which was registered as a tour operator. It's a tour operator. Hey, nice tour of Moscow. Go see Red Square and die. So registered as a tour operator and a retail supplier in hopes of securing a job in security or engineering to pay for his studies back home. Sure, a month later, he found himself tossed into the front lines, dressed in Russian military wear, and hiding in a forest from a Ukraine counter-strike. Sure, that ought to go well. Others told the Financial Times that they were promised a salary of $2,000 a month with a $10,000 bonus to work in Russian manufacturing plants, only to find themselves forced at gunpoint to enlist in the army once they arrived in Moscow. See, this is what commies do, and then they kill everybody. Just in case you don't know anything about the 20th century, it's important to learn these things. because Putin is a 20th century Soviet communist and a KGB officer. Representatives for Al-Jabri and his company could not be reached for comment, as you might imagine. Just remarkable stuff. Fareya al-Muslimi, an expert in the Gulf region, said it's clear Russia needed to replenish their frontline troops, with Western intelligence alleging that Moscow has had 700,000 Russians injured or killed since its invasion in 2022. 700,000, right? Between 1959 and 1975 in Vietnam, we had slightly more than 58,000, fewer than 59,000 Americans killed in combat. They've had 700,000 in 2 years. Never mind that. The situation has only gotten worse for Russia recently, with officials claiming the Kremlin lost an average of 15,000 soldiers a day in October. 15,000 soldiers a day in October. The worst month of casualties for Moscow as the war approaches its third year. Now, what is that? 1,500 a day. So that's 15. That's 45,000 in a month. In the month of October, 15,000 a day. 1,500 a day. I apologize. And so I was doing the math in my head. Times 10. That's 15,000, and that's a third of a month. And that times 3. That's 45,000 in the month of October for the Russians. So naturally, they need some Yemenis to throw into the death machine, because that's what they do. Between the radical Islamists, the Yemenis, and I've said many times before because it's true, you know, radical Islam is a death machine, a genocidal killing machine, and a suicide machine, kind of like the Democrat Party. But the Soviet commies, you know, they killed people by the tens of millions just inside of their own borders. And then the commies came along in China with Mao in the 1949 revolution there. They got to work. They killed 50 million of their own people, maybe as high as 75 million of their own people. I talked to libs about it, and I've had more than one lib say the exact same thing. Well, they had a lot of raw material, because that's how lefties think. And that's what commies do, just in case you don't know. Now, here's the thing I want to get to. The poll numbers, because this is pretty wild. CBS News took a poll, and it's funny, their headline is all wrong. It's all misleading. They don't even report their own poll as they should. But the headline at CBS News: CBS News poll finds Trump starts on positive note as most approve of transition handling. Transition handling. You mean like you guys changing genders? Is that what you're talking about? President-elect Donald Trump's incoming administration starts off with mostly goodwill from the public, They love their colons. A majority of Americans overall are either happy or at least satisfied that he won, and are either excited or optimistic about what he'll do as president. Wow. Shouldn't the headline be, like 59% of Democrats agree, of Americans agree with Trump? It's not. They bury the lead, as they say, and they've killed their own poll in the way that they handled it. Trump's handling of his presidential transition gets approval from most Americans overall, and brings near universal approval from his voters, along with a net positive response about his selections for cabinet posts, in particular Senator Marco Rubio, who's Trump's pick to be Secretary of State. Now, what do you hear? Because his pick to be Treasury Secretary is a gay man, and that's all you're going to hear about it, and that he's a former George Soros hedge fund manager. Right? And he's apparently a billionaire himself, big hedge fund manager. He's a gay man, or at least that's what his husband tells us. And they have 2 kids by magic and, sponsor mothers, whatever they call them, and all that stuff. But the CBS News poll is kind of fascinating because they were reluctant, and it's buried. The information is actually buried. You have to go many paragraphs down and get to get to their graphics to find the CBS News poll on the CBS News website. Trump's handling of presidential transition, 59% approve and 41% disapprove. Then they break it out by Democrats versus Republicans. Now, when you ask, are you excited, optimistic, concerned, or scared by President Trump's election as president? And 4%, 4% of Democrats are excited. 4% of Democrats are excited, which is kind of weird. Maybe they didn't understand the question. 11% of Democrats are optimistic. I'm guessing cautious optimism. 35% of Democrats are concerned, because these are your choices. 35% of concerned, and listen to this. This is my favorite. 50% are scared. Now, one of the things we've learned over the last 10 years, if we didn't know it before, is that if you're a Democrat, you're more likely to be scared. You're more likely to be afraid. You're likely to be afraid of almost everything. Your own shadow of men's rooms, of women's rooms, of normal people, of America succeeding. 50% of Democrats, CBS News poll, are scared. 35% are concerned. And then 11% optimistic, 4% excited. So 15% of them are either excited or optimistic, and 85% are scared, mostly scared, or concerned. That's Democrats. Among Republicans, 54% of Republicans are excited. 41% are optimistic. 4% are concerned, probably concerned that you guys might try to shoot him again and again and again. And only 1% are scared, and that probably goes to the you guys keep shooting at him and sending assassins to go get him. Wah, wah, wah. And then the CBS News poll. How many feel about, how do you feel about Trump winning, right? It's a feel about Trump winning. And then they give you words: happy, satisfied, dissatisfied, angry, angry. This goes to 9-year-old Katie Porter's daughter, I think. 31% of us, not broken out by party, 31% of us happy, 24% satisfied. So that is 55% right there. And then you get to your Democrats, 23% are dissatisfied, as they are with everything all the time. And 21% are angry, which means they might have to start looting a drugstore.
And I asked her how that made her feel, and she said it made her feel angry.
Made her feel angry. Why was she angry, Michael? Because the earth is on fire and we're all going to die soon. That's what Democrat Congresswoman Katie Porter taught her 9-year-old daughter. Isn't that amazing? Yes, sir. Now, the election of Donald Trump now makes you motivated to support him. 10% of Democrats say yes, motivated to support him. 78% of Republicans. Motivated to oppose him. 44% of Democrats say yes, they're motivated to oppose him. And 4% of Republicans say they're motivated to. Isn't that amazing? And then among Democrats, 46% say it won't motivate them either way. Won't motivate them either way because they've got a lot of mental issues, a lot of things that they've got to sort out. Yeah, 59% of us approve, 41% disapprove. And, of course, it's Democrats all over the place because they're all out of their minds. Every single Democrat voter completely nuts at this point in time. Now, here is Trump will make food and grocery prices. 44% of us say go down. 35% of us say go up. That's Democrats. 21% say no change. It's going to take a little time, but grocery prices, food prices will come down. Yes, sir. So Trump, and wait till you hear, I've got some creepy fake news people talking about the poll numbers, and they just don't know what to do. And then Jonathan Capehart on the new proposed gay Treasury Secretary, who's a man with a husband who's another man. And where Jonathan Capehart is a left-wing radical at the Washington Post and MSDNC, he heard about this today. Wait till you hear him. You know, this holiday season, if long days on your feet are wearing you down, come on. Remember, hardworking Americans deserve better. Better than the pain and slowing down. Cut it out. For those who keep this country moving forward, G-Defy shoes deliver on comfort and support with patented VersaShock technology. G-Defy helps absorb impact for your feet, helps support your posture, your arches, gives back energy with every step. My best girl and I, we've got our G-Defy shoes. We hike around the city. And I've told you before, your feet feel better after your hike than they felt before your hike. Visit G-Defy shoes, gdefy.com. Very easy, just G-Defy, GDEFY.com, and use the code Chris. That's me. You're going to get 50% off your order of $100 or more. That's the code Chris for 50% off a new, much better deal. 50% off orders over $100 at GDEFY.com. Stand strong and step comfortably this holiday season. That's GDefy.com. Yeah, the poll. Yeah, what do you hear the news media talking about? And then Jonathan Capehart on the President Trump's pick to become Treasury Secretary. A very interesting pick for a number of reasons. The Democrats are yelling diversity and throwing themselves off of rooftops. We'll explain why. Chris here with a list of things that none of us should trust. The Washington Post, the New York Times, anything on CNN. Here's a list of things that I do trust. The Washington Times. Support real journalism for just $1 a week at washingtontimes.com/Chris. Let's go back to the telephones, Michael. You got your crazy media coming up on Donald Trump's great poll numbers. But right now, let's go to Michael calling from Rockford, Illinois. Miguel, you're on the Chris Plante Show.
Yes, thank you very much for answering my call. I really enjoyed listening to you. We get 2 hours of you here in Rockford, and I have to go to Chicago if I want to pick up the earlier hours. So I just had a comment. Every time I hear Hillary Clinton, and I'm sure we'll hear somebody else being called a sympathizer for Russia, I think she forgot that when, and I know this is true, that when she was nearing the end of her Secretary of State position with Obama, I think she gave away, it was stated, 70% of our radium reserve to the Russians. That was several years ago. Maybe she's forgotten that.
Well, and then Russian money flowed into the Clinton Foundation coffers, right?
Right. So
Russian collusion. It might look like Russian collusion, right, Michael?
Well, it certainly does, and I believe it, too. She's, and as you said, whatever they say somebody else is or calling a name, they've already shown that that's them, too. So.
Yeah, that's a fact, Michael. Yeah, it's the Russian playbook. Whatever they accuse you of is what they're doing. Obama-era Russian uranium, the company was Uranium One. It was a bad deal. Hey, we're back. Yes, we are. So the big poll, the CBS News poll, it's got them all freaking out. They're freaked, and with President Trump's cabinet picks have to go through Senate confirmation, of course, and a great many cabinet picks for President Trump over the weekend. They say he's got all of his would-be secretaries picked, named already. You still have to go through the process, and none of that will be easy, of course, because Democrats are a pack of bloodthirsty jackals, and you know how that goes. But they've got they were screaming, "Oh no, it's not diverse enough." It's not. They like to say it's not diverse enough for whatever. They use the words, but they don't know what they mean. For the most part, one of the many problems with these people. Scott Turner for HUD Secretary of Housing, Urban Development, former NFL player, African American. And the Democrats say, well, get more. And because they start counting based on race, because they're the party of the KKK. We've also got Stephen Chung coming in as communications director. I'm going to guess he's Chinese. Alex Wong, also deputy national security advisor. Also, I'm thinking Chinese. Also, my friend Sebastian Gorka as senior director for counterterrorism. And that's great. People love to just attack each other in this town. There was a big hit piece in the Washington Post yesterday attacking Sebastian Gorka, a lengthy attack piece directed at Sebastian Gorka because he's going back into the administration. That's good enough reason. He came to us from England, his family from Hungary, having fought against the Nazis, and then the commies took over and fought against the commies, and then able to escape the commies and move to England. And Sebastian Gorka came to the United States, couldn't be more proud to be an American, serving in the administrations and the first Trump administration and now the second Trump administration. Remarkable stuff. We've got Brooke Rollins at the Department of Agriculture, Secretary of Agriculture. She's a woman. Is that diverse or is that not diverse enough? The Dr. Marty McCary, who's just great. And what did they call him on the CBS radio? Macri. Yeah, they call him Macri on CBS radio. And the reason that they don't know his name at CBS radio, they've never heard of him because they all get their news from each other. It's a circle fest in a hot tub, and they don't hear news that, MSNBC and CNN and the Washington Post and the New York Times don't give them. Remarkable stuff. Yes, sir. So we've got all kinds of moving parts. You got Tulsi Gabbard, of course, who's from Hawaii, and she's a Pacific Islander. They like that PI. They abbreviate that as PI. Pacific Island, and she's a woman. You got Elon Musk, not technically a cabinet post, but he's in there, and he's from South Africa, which is a country in Africa, in the South, as you might expect. Been there, done that. Cape Town, Johannesburg, Table Mountain, all that good stuff. A great place. But now they're yelling, and they got Dr. Jeanette Nishwat, who is, her family is Jordanian. She's a woman. She's a medical doctor. She's Jordanian. Got Lori Chavez Derrimer as the Secretary of Labor. She's Lori Chavez, but before she was married. But the Democrats, they need to racialize everything, and they need to break you out by race. Also, in terms of diversity, they think the only thing that diversity means is race because they're such terrible racists. In reality, diversity of opinion, of ideology matters more than race or gender or genitalia or anything the Democrats are obsessed with. And you've got, Vivek Ramaswamy, who is Indian American. That mattered when it was Kamala Harris, of course. And again, you've got a Hawaiian Pacific Islander, but you've got, and she was a former Democrat, just by the way, and this is why it matters. RFK Jr. is in there, another former Democrat. She was a Democrat member of the House of Representatives. She's still a lieutenant colonel, I believe, in the U.S. Army Reserve, and she served in Iraq, unlike Tim Walz. But, you got a South African guy. You got Vivek Ramaswamy, parents from India. You've got Tulsi Gabbard, Pacific Islander, former Democrat. You've got RFK Jr., not a Pacific Islander, but yes, a former Democrat. And again, I saw the picture today, once again, that was of the 4 former Democrats. That's great. Donald Trump, all right, Elon Musk, Tulsi Gabbard, and RFK Jr. standing together. All 4 of them former Democrats. Something must have gone terribly wrong with the Democrat Party. You bet your bottom dollar it has. Man, oh, Manischewitz, boy, has it gone wrong. Just crazy. So we've got that. But in any case, let's go to some audio here, because the news media, they're very upset about this. They're very upset about everything because they're lefties, and lefties are always very upset about everything. But let me get to this, because there is a story. I don't think I even have a story in my stories list today about the incoming Treasury Secretary, or maybe I do. But this guy, the incoming Treasury Secretary, is a gay man. That means he doesn't like, sex with women. And he's a former George Soros guy, And CBS News, and I went to those I was researching today. I go to a lot of different sources. I'm not wedded to any particular source, and I like to mock what they produce. So who is Scott Bessent, B-E-S-S-E-N-T? Bessent. Who is Scott Bessent is the headline at CBS News. What you need to know about Trump's Treasury Secretary pick. And they start, you know how they love to sow division in Republican ranks. President-elect Donald Trump on Friday announced a hedge fund billionaire, Scott Bessent, as his pick for U.S. Treasury Secretary, choosing a former executive with George Soros Fund Management, who in recent years has been a vocal supporter of the former president's policies. You could also call him the president-elect. You could call him that looking forward, but they're always looking back, aren't they? You know, the people they hang out with, that's probably a good idea. From tariffs to spending cuts, you see now the hedge fund manager and billionaire Scott Bessent, now he's all for using tariffs where appropriate, usually as a tool to coerce, and spending cuts, now that we're $36 trillion in debt. If confirmed, Bessent would follow Janet Yellen, a labor economist who was the first woman to lead both the Federal Reserve and Treasury in running the department that manages the nation's finances as well as its tax agency, the Internal Revenue Service. Bessent, who has provided economic advice to Trump's campaign, has had a decades-long career in finance. He analyzed macroeconomics and geopolitical risks while working at the Soros Fund. They're hitting him with Soros repeatedly. They haven't gotten to the gay part. We're multiple paragraphs into it. Why do you think that is? Where he served as chief investment officer for Soros. Soros has done very well. Maybe he could do the same. He's using all the money to wreck the United States of America, as well as other high risk and hedge funds, CBS News reports. Perhaps more importantly, in helping him gain Trump's backing, Bessent countered other economic experts during the presidential campaign, arguing that they were wrong about the impact of the former president's policies in a recent Fox News opinion piece. He asserted that tariffs aren't inflationary, rejecting the views of 16 Nobel Prize-winning economists. The Democrats always do this. You know, Barack Obama won the Nobel Peace Prize. I wouldn't go ask him for his opinion about peace, since he attacked 8 countries while he was president. But they got 16 Nobel Prize-winning economists, most of whom worked for the New York Times, that Trump's plans will impose broad tariffs would reignite price increases. Well, he was already president for 4 years, and that didn't happen. So you're 16 lying sacks of Jewia, okay? So we got that. And then critics of tariffs, and they argue and go on and on. What Bessent, educational and work history, a Yale graduate, naturally, they're all Ivy League, initially sought to become a journalist, sure, a lifetime Democrat, but he didn't get the post as editor at the Yale Daily News. He changed his direction, secured an internship with money manager Jim Rogers, George Soros's first partner and co-founder of the Quantum Fund. He told his University Alumni magazine, I should have done that when I was, I should have gone into hedge fund management. That would have been an interesting line of work too. Then I'd have a jet and a yacht. Because they all have jets and yachts, don't they? And that'd be nice too. Me, I've got a 4-cylinder car. But, it's got a slapstick transmission. That's kind of fun. So it goes on and on. And then Bessent is the CEO, Chief Investment Officer of New York-based hedge fund Key Square Capital Management. Key Square Capital Management. That doesn't sound like a very good name to me of a management thing. And it's, but that's where he's the boss. And so they're still going on and on. But wait a minute. What are Bessent's political and economic views? And they're still going on and on. But wait a minute. If he were Joe Biden's, I think when Pete Buttigieg was nominated to become the transportation secretary, every headline said that he's gay, that he's the first gay and all this stuff, right? And now, where is CBS News going to get to this? It's kind of an amazing thing because if you search, and I did earlier, I searched it with the search function. Well, show me the word gay. Certainly you're going to say gay. Now, paragraphs down there, back to talking about George Soros, the Soros Management Fund, and all this stuff. And what about Bessette's personal life? Bessette now lives in his home state of South Carolina with his husband, former New York City prosecutor John Freeman, with whom he has 2 children, which is a pretty good trick. He can do that. That's pretty good. So he lives with his husband, and they just leave you to draw your own conclusions because they don't want to say when Democrats appoint people to positions and the people are gay, the headlines are all, oh, yay, this is such a great celebration. Now, that brings us to Jonathan Capehart, doesn't it? Because Jonathan Capehart is a typist for the radical left at the Washington Post. He's a gay man. You don't even have to ask him. He tells you in every sentence because it's a thing. He's a black man and he's a gay man. And he is on MSDNC because he's a left-wing radical gay black man who works at the Washington Post. So at MSNBC, they said, well, we like the cut of his jib. Let's bring him on. And got to talk about Bessent now that Trump has picked and become Treasury Secretary. And it's very befuddling and very confusing to Jonathan Capehart.
Scott Bessent is gay?
He is.
And married? Yes. And has children.
Yes, he does.
Yesterday, when I brought this up, if he's confirmed, would be the highest ranking LGBT person ever to be appointed and confirmed by the United States Senate. And I said,
right.
I'm kind of conflicted about
it.
It's Trump. I'm kind of conflicted about this.
He's kind of conflicted about this. He's very conflicted about this. How conflicted is he? It's very, Jonathan Capehart, very, very conflicted. He couldn't be more conflicted about this because he'd be the highest ranking gay U.S. government official. Oh, well, openly. You got to say openly because they know that everybody was really gay. They'd like Abraham Lincoln. They like to say that Abraham Lincoln was gay. They don't base it on anything. They just like to say that. So remarkable stuff. And yes, sir. Now, politics, CBS News writes that politics also runs in his family as former Representative John Jenrette. There was a scandal there, Rita Jenrette and all that stuff, was his uncle, and also known for serving a prison sentence for his role in the 1980s Abscam scandal, the FBI kind of setup thing. Abscam, the Arab scam scandal in the 1980s with crooked members of Congress. South Carolina's Post-Courier reported. Yeah, John Jenrette was involved in this scandal on Capitol Hill, House member. And his wife, if I'm remembering this correctly, his wife was Rita Jenrette. And there was some racy this and that. I'm going to have to give that a quick Google, though, because I haven't thought of Rita Jenrette in a long time. John, so they say, oh, yeah, he's got a... Now, they don't tell you anything else about him because it's just CBS News. They gave up journalism some time back. Now, I haven't gotten to the news media on the poll numbers yet. I still have to get to that because they just don't know what to. At CNN, they're in a panic. You know that a recent reanalysis of a study shows that a year after having an abortion, women exhibited a 50% higher likelihood of first-time psychiatric treatment, needing psychiatric treatment, and an 87% higher likelihood of personality and behavioral disorders 1 year after an abortion. This isn't women's health care. It's, of course, the exact opposite of that, but you know that. At Preborn's network of clinics, women are welcomed with open arms as they're shown their baby on an ultrasound and offered life-affirming choices. Now, that's choice. That's real choice. When they choose life, they're offered assistance for up to 2 years, including maternity clothes and diapers and counseling and so much more. Preborn, great organization, helps treat the whole woman and the baby growing inside of her, too, of course. Donating is very simple to Preborn. Just dial pound 250 and say the keyword baby. You dial pound 250, you say the keyword baby, or you can go online to preborn.com/plant, preborn.com/PLANTE. All of your gifts to Preborn are, of course, tax deductible, and And that's a good thing. Preborn has a 4-star rating as a charity. And that's a good thing, too. Yeah, so this is, a little bit of a big deal. But if you're a Republican, you probably don't care very much. Democrats want to care very much because of identity politics. And Jonathan Capehart is conflicted. I assume that's kind of a normal state of being for Jonathan Capehart. Now, I shared with you the CBS News poll numbers that it's got them twitching in their undergarments. And this morning, they were talking about it on CNN, about the poll numbers. And they have a guy on CNN who's doing their polls. His name is Harry Enten. Harry Enten, which sounds like a Danish roll covered with hair, doesn't it? Harry Enten. It's Harry Enten, and he was in front of the big board looking at the poll numbers, and he couldn't believe his eyes. He couldn't believe what he was seeing. Harry Enten, a furry, fuzzy Danish roll.
President Trump's transition net approval. You go back to November of 2016. Look at this. It was just at plus 1 point. Just at plus 1 point. That was well below the historical norm. Look at where we are today. Significantly higher. Plus 18 points. That's 17 points higher on the presidential transition net approval rating. The bottom line is this. If 8 years ago Americans were lukewarm on Donald Trump, at this particular point they're giving him much more the benefit of the doubt. A lot more Americans are in love with this transition. This much more meets the historical norms where normally presidents get that boost coming out of their victory. And what we're seeing here is Donald Trump's presidential transition is getting a thumbs up and, dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people.
And dare I say, 2 thumbs up from the American people. And the guy is freaking out. He's pounding the floor. He's hitting his shoes. Oh, wow, in November 2024, Trump is plus 18. Trump's presidential transition net approval. And in 2016, the first time he won the presidency, it was only plus 1. Now it's plus 18. Now that means they're going to have to pedal even harder, pedal faster to try to wreck Donald Trump and his presidency and the Republican Party, because that's the role that our news media plays today. They don't report the news. They don't perpetrate or commit journalism. They perpetrate and commit politics. Oh, boy, a whole lot more coming up now.